You're studying the science of disruption now, but it's interesting to me. You come from the land of the disrupted in a way, right around where BlackBerry, grew big. And then you went to work for AOL early in your career, running Instant Messenger, which is now dying. Yeah. I mean, it's like officially being end of life, right? At the end of this year. Did you learn anything in particular from being in those places that, in retrospect?
Yeah, everything. I mean, everything that I think I apply in success, I learned in failure or hardship. The problem with success is that it's so easy to conflate luck and skill. You don't really know whether it was you, whether it was timing, whether it's the moment. And then unfortunately, that stuff is really corrosive because it gets into your mind, it drives your ego, and it defines your sense of self-worth in a way that's just not sustainable or accurate. Whereas in failure, what happens is you just you're basically at zero. And you have to really unpack what was you, what was the moment, and then you have if you decide to do it, have these moments of clarity where you can really figure out what your powers are and what you're really good at and where you can affect change in an otherwise difficult circumstance. And when you internalize that, you become really powerful.
When did you do that for Chamath, and how did you end up at Facebook?
Well, that period, so, I mean, after I graduated from college, I actually took a very traditional job. I was a derivatives trader. I had even though I went through electrical engineering, I had managed to get that job. And the reason I liked that job, again, it played on my desire to take risk and, quote unquote, gamble. Although I realized later on that this, calculated decision making and gambling look really similar on the outside in, even though they're not the same thing. But I had to leave that job because I just felt like I was going to get trapped by money.
Trapped by money.
Trapped by money. Because I was poor and I needed the job and I needed the money. And then I needed their perspective on what making a lot of money meant and all of the encumbrances that it came with respect to your behavior, your personality, with respect to sort of the things you can do and can't do. I would have just become a slave in a gilded cage. And I didn't want that. I wanted to be emancipated. I wanted to find my own path to be able to not have to be a subject of the man. And working at a bank just didn't seem that path for me. So I moved to Silicon Valley and I worked for a small company that AOL had bought called Winamp.
I remember Winamp.
And that was it was crazy because it was at a moment in time where it was part of the AOL Music Group. AOL was trying to get a very complicated merger with Time Warner done. There was all this antitrust scrutiny around the music space, and so we were handcuffed. There was many things we couldn't do. Then separately, there were all these things that we tried to do. So nobody knows this, but we created the first 99-cent download store, and we were able to do it because we had all these credit cards on file from all of the customers of AOL, and it performed beautifully. But then when you try to go to the powers that be within the AOL infrastructure and convince them to launch a 99-cent download store, they all said no for political reasons. So you deal with this failure. None of it made any sense, but then you become really resilient, and then you figure out how to get great ideas to win and how to get great ideas to market because you wanted them to win.
I thought for a moment you were going to say you become really resentful, but you said resilient.
No, honestly, I'm pretty much I'm not a bitter person. There's it's just we all have 90 years. Okay, let's just say, plus or minus. God bless us that we all live 90 years. But take 90 years and divide it by, that's the numerator. The denominator is the length of the universe, which is what? Some odd trillion years? So this is us. So I just don't have time to be bitter. I life is just too short to be glass half full. Or glass half empty, whatever it is. I'm kind
half
of
a glass of anything. It's too short.
I'm just hey man, there's water in that glass. I'm going to drink it. And so I just want to do it and go for it. And I just I'm blessed by not having that mental baggage. So yeah, I didn't get resentful. I got more resilient. I got more creative. I tried to figure out different ways of telling my story. I became a great communicator. because I needed to divorce myself from the emotion, from the politics. I tried to present facts. I became great at the time of telling narratives, understanding true sort of like consumer desire. Because
How do you practice that?
Well, in the moment, I was able to practice it because I was looking at the data of what the product we were trying to build, and then trying to articulate it to the powers that be, and kind of chip away at all kinds of reasons to say no, and it's never happened. And then I remember getting this call in 2000, and I think it was 3 or 4, where somebody said, "Oh, Steve Jobs just launched a 99-cent download store," and I was like,
"Well, there you go.
That's just brutal." But it was in that process that I just got really good at just trying to figure out what mattered and then try to tell people the truth.
So in retrospect, this experience of failure, you never did get them to run with what was a great idea.
Yeah.
You've internalized as a learning exercise that taught you to be a much better communicator.
Communicator, motivator, how to sort of lead versus do, how to manage through adversity,